Hello out there. Hi, we got a couple people in the chat already. I see Mr. Rez, I see Ryan, I see Stuart, I see Sin, I see Cal, and 2Med2, another YouTuber out there as well. Thank you guys for being here. We're back with Gina. This way? Yes, she's this way.
Hello.
I'm not good at Brady Bunching yet. I'm still working through that. But we're here to discuss one of your favorite topics.
We're talking The Mandalorian.
We're gonna talk about The Mandalorian. Also,
I'm so freaking excited.
I'm excited. But real quick, I 2Med2 said in the chat, happy Revenge of the Fifth. I love Revenge of the Fifth. I think it's funny because there's always the debate: is it Revenge of the Fifth or Revenge of the Sixth? It should be both because always two there are. So really, they should get both days. But I also choose to recognize today as Cinco de Kylo, which may or may not be culturally insensitive. I hope it's not. It's mostly just a pun. Hello, the Shadow. Welcome. Welcome to another I'm tired stream. So this is just the theme that's been going on, where I just say things and we go, well, hopefully that was fine. But yeah, we're here. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if you thought the brain mushiness only existed for the Clone Wars, you were wrong.
You're wrong. But yeah, so there's this awesome show because like I remember being kind of like bummed out that we weren't getting a lot of behind the scenes material for Mandalorian, and then Disney Plus was like, "JK, LOL, here's a whole series."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Okay, it's a surprise," because we found out about this like a couple weeks ago.
Weeks ago, yep. They were just like, May the 4th, we're gonna give you this whole thing, and we're gonna give it to you like a show.
Yeah.
You're not gonna get it all at once, and it's not gonna be like one straight movie. You're gonna get to sit in every week. And I was like, that's exactly what we need right now. It's like they knew.
Yes. They knew what we need. So I was really interested. Like I was interested in this anyway, but I assumed wrongly that it was going to be like a making of each episode, but they're actually breaking it down by like part of the process. So we got directing today, and we got to meet our ragtag gang of directors. So since this is really like your show, like how are you feeling? How are you feeling post directing special of The Mandalorian?
Okay, so this is everything that I ever could have wanted. Yeah. I too thought that it was going to be each show. But just like most things with Star Wars, they know what I actually need. And this is what I actually needed.
Yeah.
I was looking around on the internet to see if they had a list of what every episode was going to be, and I didn't see one. So if anyone sees one, you should please let them know. Because I was wondering, like, there's like 8 episodes, I think. Mm-hmm. And so like, what are the rest of the 8 gonna be? I was like trying to figure it out. You would think that seeing them and things would ruin the magic, and yet false. It does not.
It does not at all.
So yeah, I loved every moment of it, and I can't wait for more. Yeah. This is amazing.
My favorite thing that happened out of this was actually not even from watching the episode. I only got to watch it this morning when I got home from work. My folks watched it last night, and I was talking to my mom, and she was like, we were watching it, and there was this guy in a hat, and he was talking about meeting George. I'm like, you mean Dave Filoni? Like, yeah. And he got to, like, work with George. I'm like, that's Dave Filoni. So, like, now my parents actually know who Dave Filoni is, so that's good.
I watched it for the first time last night. So last night, my dad and I watched the end of the Clone Wars.
Yep.
And so afterwards, I just immediately went into this doc, and my dad saw Dave, and he saw his name go across, and he goes, so that's the guy that makes the Clone Wars, the thing we just finished. And I was like, yes, exactly. That's the guy. And then he was like, and that's Happy, from the Iron Man. And I was like, yeah.
I love that.
So it's happening everywhere. We're getting names to faces.
It's starting to make the connections. Maybe I'm a bad fan, but I never knew the story of Dave Filoni thinking that like his job was a prank call from SpongeBob.
I didn't know that either. Also, didn't know he worked on Avatar, which
That
makes
I
a
did
lot
know.
of sense now. I really like Avatar, and so I'm like,
That I did know. If you look at the Clone Wars movie, because I saw the Clone Wars movie before I saw the entirety of Avatar: Last Bender. I kind of like caught episodes of it while I was on TV. So like I'd seen the Clone Wars movie, and then I was watching the series, and there's a part where they do a battle going up a cliff, and I was like, it's like the Clone Wars. And my friends who were watching it with me were like, because they don't watch Clone Wars, and anyway, that was how that whole exchange went. But yes,
yeah, I watched Avatar before I got anywhere into Star Wars, and
yeah,
so I was like, never made that connection, but it's been made now.
there you go. But I loved that story. But it's just hearing Dave talk is cool. But I really just like hearing people talk about Dave Filoni. Because like if you talk to Dave Filoni, he's
Mm-hmm.
like, Star Wars man, and then everybody else is like, Dave is literally God's gift on this earth. I can only imagine he was horrified when he watched everyone say nice things about him.
Okay, are you back?
I'm back. Are you back?
Okay, I'm back.
I'm not actually sure which of us is leaving, but we are having some dissonance.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Uh, but yeah, I when I watched through, what I was trying to do is it felt like with each director, like they were trying to have like it wasn't really spelled out, but like a specific thing. Like for Dave, it was really like his connection to Star Wars, and for Deborah Chow, who I now have sworn my full life's devotion to after just the 3 minutes we saw of her. It was really talking
Yeah.
about like the action, and Rick was all about like scale and voice, and Bryce was about the emote. Like I thought it was kind of cool how they're emphasizing what each person and then Taika is just Taika. Like there's just Taika
Yeah.
energy. Like there's no other way to describe it than Taika energy.
Exactly. Well, one thing I think is so interesting about this is laid out is
Mm-hmm.
so a couple of these directors, especially people like Taika or Bryce Dallas Howard, like
Mm-hmm.
we know them from Thor. Taika just had Jojo Rabbit.
Yep.
Bryce is in a bunch of things in Jurassic World, so like we're familiar with them. If you watch Mr. Robot, you know Deborah Chow, but we're slowly becoming familiar with all these people. And then
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of us did research into who these directors were, like
Yep.
as we were watching the show. And so as we pieced together from different interviews or watching their other things, we said, oh, this truly is in their style. So this whole time, I think, even when they just announced the directors, we said,
Mm-hmm.
here's this group of people who are creative and different,
Mm-hmm.
but they're getting something amazing done and still able to tell like one linear cohesive story that makes sense.
Yep.
And then to see all of that like doubly confirmed in this documentary, to just be like, yeah, that is what we wanted,
Mm-hmm.
and that is what was achieved,
Yeah.
is absolutely amazing and makes complete sense because it truly shines through in the show.
Yeah. I love that they embraced that. And one of the things that gets me the most excited about any kind of collaborative storytelling, but especially like film or television, because it's always collaborative unless you're like a film student working on a project by yourself. And you're also playing all the
Mm.
roles. Like it's always intrinsically collaborative. And I love it when the group of people making it really do feel like they became friends while they made the project. Um, I think we're a little bit frozen again, but I liked I don't know I liked seeing how all of the directors connected to each other, and just the idea of like they would say, oh hey, this is my idea, and like bounce it off of each other. Um, she's been frozen for a hot second. Hold on. Oh, I heard a thing. I heard a thing. I heard a thing. Echo base. This is Rogue 2. This is Rogue 2. I'll text her. Let's see. I'll take this time to get caught up in chat. How about we do that? Message. It's probably from her. Completely lost me there. Okay, that's fun. Hold on. Let me restart the call. Let's all sit on the screen for a hot second. See if that works. Hey, are you there?
Oh my goodness.
We getting you back? Let's see. Meanwhile, in the chat,
Being so patchy, but you're back.
okay, that's good. Your video's still loading, so like.
And now you're frozen.
Oh, that's. I mean, you're all. For me, you're just like a screen with two blue dots.
I'm here. You're frozen.
Okay, but we can hear each other.
I wonder.
This is fascinating for all of you out there. I know that. Tumid2 says Yoda is the one counting. Oh yeah, yep. So he's talking about Revenge of the Sith. So that's cool. Love Bryce's story about meeting George and Kurosawa and Pop Steve. I love that too when she's a little girl. And Noelle says we must break the seal to release her from the freeze, which I think is good. Okay, are you back?
Oh my goodness, are you there?
I think we're there. Okay. Maybe? Nope. No. Oh wait. Okay. I was like, are you there? And then it completely blacked out, but I think you're back.
Oh, it blacked out twice. I was like, this is so weird. I checked on my internet connection and it seemed strong.
Of course. We get haunted by dark side moss here. That's what we call it anytime we have technical problems. There's this moss from Dooku Jedi Lost that like consumes you and tries to turn you to the dark side, and we say that it tries to eat our streams. So that's the dark side moss. That is what we call
like
it. As Kevin Scott reference.
As you were going through, I was like, something being wonderful is being said, but I don't hear a single thing. And then it was completely gone. I was like, well, now I can't tell you that I don't know what was happening.
That's fine. I was saying what made me excited was how collaborative the process was and how that these directors seemed like they really liked working with each other. I liked the idea of, I can't remember who said it, but they're like, we could just kind of call each other up and bounce ideas off of each other and say, does this work? And just the idea of how much experimenting they were doing. Like, I thought that's the type of thing that gets me really excited about storytelling.
Well, and one of the things I didn't even realize, it was either Dave or John who said it, but and it was like not even like a really big focus. It was sort of like off the cuff, but he said, someone can come to us and say, does this really make sense? And if it truly doesn't, you can change it.
Yeah.
And I never thought about like them having that much, because you would think like someone like Dave who knows so much about Star Wars and who knows so much about like what George would want, if someone came to them and was like, okay, but does this really make sense? Not that he's a bad guy, but just be like, maybe, okay, but I know better. And maybe in some instances that would happen.
Right.
But just the ability to be able to say, does this make sense? Should we? And the potential for adaptability, I was just like, that's why this show works so well.
Well, it's one of the best qualities you can have in someone is for them to be able to go, you know what, this thing I said really doesn't make sense. And to, like, you would rather find out it doesn't make sense in the pre-production process or even the production process than in the post, where you're like, now that I'm looking at this, I don't know what we did, but that's fine. Maybe no one else will notice. No, that was so fun. I liked too how different, like with Dave, they kept talking about like his deep Star Wars lore and knowledge, and then you go to Bryce, and she had a really cool thing about how like they wanted to tell her story, and how she said that she wanted to tell something that could exist outside of Star Wars, but then also make it still feel like Star Wars. And I liked that there's not like a right or wrong. Like, it's not right to make something that is the Star Wars we're used to, and it's not right to make something that's something different, but that sometimes we're going to give you that thing that you're used to, and sometimes we're going to mix it up. And I liked, even though honestly it's kind of funny, Rick made both my favorite and least favorite episode of the season. I don't know how that happened, but like part of it was episode 2 is cheating. I love Jawas. I am obsessed with Jawas. So like episode 2 literally there has not been a thing made that is more for me than putting Baby Yoda and Jawas in the same thing. Like I was
Yeah.
just giddy, like and then having like the use of the Force. Anyway, episode 2 is my favorite, and that's not to put down any. Like 2 was just made for me specifically, I think. But then the one with the heist, I wasn't as into, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But like you know, in a show that where they're all going to be so different, it makes sense that you're going to like some more than others. Um, but it was just the idea of like, well, his did feel different, and his did have a different voice, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate that they wanted to do that. I don't know. I feel like I'm just gonna keep saying the same thing over and over, but I just kept being so impressed with how much
Yeah.
they were like, yo, we want to make it feel like it's all of these different things going on.
Well, and I think part of that goes, people say it all the time, people say it plenty of times, does it feel like Star Wars?
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone can actually give you the full definition of, so X, Y, and Z, does it feel like Star Wars? Because, Rogue One feels like Star Wars, but like I don't have a lightsaber or
Right.
until you get to the end. But like this feels like Star Wars, and it's not like it's not like completely the same.
Right.
And so I think that is part of, and that's timelessness to me. So I
Yeah.
think about when Bryce Dallas Howard was saying those things, and it's like it can exist both within and
Yep.
it can exist both without, and
Yep.
it stands the test of time. I think we're going to be talking about and watching The Mandalorian for like ever.
Yeah.
It's never going to go away, and I'm happy with that.
I am too, and I liked too. I think it was Dave who said it kind of felt like Star Wars school. And what I'm so excited with The Mandalorian and really with getting these Disney Plus live action shows in general is like we're already seeing it do what I was hoping it was going to do, where you have Deborah Chow come on and do 2 episodes, and now she has the Obi-Wan show, which I'm now fascinated by because apparently action is her favorite thing, and she's getting the show about the man meditating in the desert. So I was already interested in the Kenobi show, but now I'm like really interested in the Kenobi show because I want to know how that style is gonna work. But to have that, and then Taika, not that Taika needed to prove himself because he's already a proven filmmaker, but I mean we've had people who were signed up to do Star Wars projects already who are proven filmmakers who got replaced by Bryce Dallas Howard's dad. So like that just because you've proven yourself outside of Star Wars doesn't mean you can make it. So like it's cool to see Taika tackle an episode and be like, okay, now he has a movie. And I'm hoping that these shows can start to do that, where we will now no longer have this revolving door of fired directors for other Star Wars projects, because now you can come in and be given an episode and they'll figure out real quick if somebody can or can't work in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I wanted to go back because one of the things I was thinking about that Deborah Chow said was, her interest in action and essentially making things and being interested in things that she would want to see.
Yep.
And so one of the things I really appreciated is, as they're gathered around this round table, whenever John's like, you're all creatively brave. And one of the prerequisites is that we all love Star Wars. And I love that it's also broad. There's like, you just have to love this.
Yep.
And so being a fan first and seeing the love that goes into that, I think it immensely makes it better, because it's like, okay, but what would I want to see? What would make it good? But at the same time, I think even as fans and wanting to see what they would want to see, it's not, okay, so we know that Star Wars has like a diverse group of fans and everyone wants to see something else. So it's not like we're going to pander or cater to, piecemealing everyone and everything, because then you don't get a really good story. No matter what you're going to do, you're going to end up alienating some people,
Right. Yep.
So they take the perfect combination of what tells a good story and everything that they've learned and practiced in their own craft. And okay, but what do we really want to see on the screen? And I think all of them do it phenomenally, even on the like few episodes. Well, just like the one episode I didn't care for, but I like them all.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of the risk you take when you do something. And I feel the same way about Clone Wars, because Clone Wars would have such wildly different episodes. Django and I will debate often, because I other than like the one in the Void arc, I like anything that was like a droid episode. I love droid episodes in Clone Wars. He hates droid episodes of the Clone Wars. But it's just like inevitably that's what happens, and I feel like with Mandalorian, inevitably just checking the online discourse, you would have people who are like, this one was better and that one was better. But it's when you tell a show that's somehow able to be an anthology show, even if it's still about the same two characters, you're always going to have that one episode that didn't work for somebody, but you're also going to have one episode that will work for everybody. Like there's at least one episode of The Mandalorian that everybody, even if they don't like the whole series. And
yeah,
I think it's more rewarding, even though you run the risk of some episodes being less popular than others.
Yeah, and then I think you take whatever you learn, and then you just continue to build on that, and you work in it as you continue to go. I think and I saw this quote going around Twitter before I knew the context of it, but I think one of the most important things is something that Taika said, where he says it doesn't take itself, 100% seriously,
Yes.
but it does believe in itself, and that's like, I didn't know I needed that.
That quote changed my life. Like that quote changed my life.
And I love that. And to me, not that I don't know if I know like a bunch of George Lucas quotes or anything, but I believe fully that George Lucas believes that, and he passes on that idea in the work that he has.
Yep.
But I don't know if we would have had, someone to actually verbalize it in this way and take on this kind of meaning, especially for someone like me, unless they had taken a chance on someone like Taika. And so it's threading and it's connecting, and I love it.
Yeah, I think it's important too, because when you look at some of the more obnoxious debates we've gotten in, like the do bombs fall in space debate with Last Jedi, or like, does it really matter? And I'm like, okay, if you were literally watching that shot and debating whether or not those bombs could fall in space, that just means the movie didn't grab you. Because if you liked the movie, you don't give a flying flip if bombs fall in space. If you don't like the movie, then that's just gonna like be, bamboo under your fingernails, because that's just how things work. The movie grabbed you or it didn't. And so there's so many ridiculous things that happen in The Mandalorian, but The Mandalorian, the show, is like it makes sense within the context of the show, and that's, to me, it's more important that the internal narrative of the show makes more sense than necessarily like the science. Like,
yes,
you get like one of the things with Mandalorian when I was watching it, I was like, there's like a training montage for a droid. Like they just get reprogrammed. Like, what is this? And I was like, you know what? Whatever. It's fine. Like, I'm just gonna let it go, because a lot of people really liked that, and it was fine.
Well, and one of the things I think about in that is, so when we meet IG-11, it's like, oh, pretty cool, it's pretty funny. He's like, I'm gonna self-destruct, and he's like, don't self-destruct, and that's hilarious. And so when we were first introduced to this character, it's just like, oh, funny, but also purpose. Is being hacked to destroyed, but then there's tension because we're not killing Baby Yoda.
No, we're not. Nope.
And then we get to the end, and IG-11's purpose has completely changed. And so it's not necessarily as much of that comedy, but suddenly me seeing this training montage makes me so much more endeared to this droid.
Right.
And suddenly I cared before, but it was like, but then you were going to hurt my stepson. I don't care about you anymore.
Right.
And now I care about you fully, and your job is to protect, and your job is to nurture. And so, I mean, it was a different episode and a different director, but I think about when Bryce says that she cared about performances, and she wants you to be able to live in a moment. And I think, well, that was an amazing, heartfelt performance. And no, that's not necessarily what happens when they're, reprogrammed or anything.
Right.
But it made all of his subsequent actions after that
makes sense,
hit me in my heart that much more.
And it's funny too how people respond to it, because the first time I watched that episode, part of how I reacted to this is I was still not convinced that he was reprogrammed, because I was like, the Mandalorian doesn't trust him, so I don't trust him. And so like I spent that whole episode, like, it literally, like, when he blew up was when I was for sure that he was actually reprogrammed. I was like, it took me to there. I was like, but is he though? And I was getting in like debates with people, and I'm like, look, this is my son we're talking about. And I'm just saying that I don't trust him until the Mandalorian trusts him. That's it. That's all I'm saying.
Which I think is also just another fascinating thing about how well this show works, that
Yeah.
you can pick up when you decide to trust someone.
Yep.
Is our main point of view character reliable?
Yep.
How are we feeling? Whose headspace are we living in? And the fact that we have different directors
Yep.
from different backgrounds who add, like, okay, I come from here, so I'm going to add this little piece of action that makes me
Yeah.
endeared, trust, etc. And so you get different point of views for fans who are like, if I don't trust you yet, but I do trust you yet.
Yep.
And it show's good. You're gonna hear me say this 1,000 times. This
No, it's
show's
good.
good.
Also, welcome, Adrian. Sorry, I haven't said anything yet. But I think one of my other, I mean, really, it was just like Taika. Just I could watch Taika on loop for my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
But I liked his bit too when he was talking about the show he worked on, and they just took like the leftover bits from the Lord of the Rings, and like that was their props. And like, imagine going from working on this where you're literally taking previously used elf ears, and now you're on Star Wars with like whatever money you need
Yes.
to
Oh
do
my
whatever
goodness.
you need. And I liked his story too about how like, yeah, I just picked up the jargon for the computer effects, but I don't really know what I was saying. I was like, that's so great.
Oh my! It's so hopeful to me. Like, it's hilarious and it's funny, but also it's that idea of faking it until you make it, which I very much believe in and very much do all the time in my life. Like, I've had moments where people like in grad school,
Yeah.
people who came in the semester after me, they were like, okay, I think I'm confident. Do you think I know what I'm talking about? They're like, yeah, Gina, you're so great at grad school. And I'm like, I am lying to you. I am also just as confused as all of you. I do not know what these words mean. And I've been here a year now. I should. And so and this idea that he had of, he's used to making do. And
Yeah.
so to me, that says, I'm pretty sure there have been plenty of shows, there
Mm-hmm.
have been plenty of movies that have been successful, and someone who knew exactly what they were doing, or someone who had done like only high budget stuff, got something and it was
Mm-hmm.
fine. I'm pretty
Yep.
sure it's a bunch of things that I've watched that's also that way. But
Mm-hmm.
there's something about someone who's used to making do,
Yep.
who now essentially has the whole world as their playground.
Yep.
They still care about the small things. They still care about, is this gonna, propel our story forward? How are we feeling about our characters? Checking in on
Yep.
everything, because they're used to doing it on the small. And so to have that addition, and especially since they bounce everything off of each other, and ask each other questions, it's
Mm-hmm.
like, if a director is always used to high budget,
Yep.
maybe check in with someone like Taika to be like, okay, but have we still got the essence of what makes this a good, compelling story, and ultimately what's going to make this Star Wars? And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, I loved what they were doing with it. Like what you're saying too, with they learned how to make do. They were talking about how I think it was Favreau was saying that like directing more than any other part of filmmaking, you have to like learn as you go, and you don't
mm-hmm,
necessarily have the same routine. Although I wonder how other people in other job roles of filmmaking would feel about that statement, because everyone probably actually feels that way. But when you have somebody who did have to scrounge up rejected fantasy creatures from the Lord of the Rings, that's somebody who
mm-hmm,
does already know how to problem solve, or somebody who's kind of gone through it before. And I think it's always interesting seeing directors like Dave, who come from animation into live action, because they go
mm-hmm,
from, in a way, it's almost the reverse. Like with animation, you have to create the whole image, and then to train your thinking to go from, I can just, if I need a thing, I can make it. Now it takes time and work and money to make it, but you can make it. Versus like, this is what we
mm-hmm.
have. And I don't know. I think I'm so happy that they found like this really solid group of directors. I
Right.
The one kind of unfortunate thing, I don't know that it's been confirmed or not, but Chow is probably going to do Obi and not come back, which is too bad because she did 2 really fantastic episodes. But like, at least it's
Yeah.
because she's doing other Star Wars and not because she's not being brought back. Like, if you have a reason to not be brought back, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
uh, and but yeah, go ahead.
Well, one of the other things I was thinking about, and obviously, anyone listening to this in the
Mm-hmm.
future or anyone listening now, if anyone has experience directing, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I want to hear everything. But
Yeah.
my undergrad and my graduate degree that I'm working on now are both in communication, and so
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I had the chance to do was one of our lessons was in television,
Mm-hmm.
and so throughout the whole semester, we were doing 5-minute talk shows. So it's different because it's live TV, but
Yeah.
you got the chance to do everything from the director, the talent, the audio, camera person, everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember when I got up time for me to be the director, I was the most nerve wracked about that because while everything is kind of, flying by the seat of your pants,
Yep.
anything can happen as the director, you're calling all the shots. And so I would wake up early every morning, set up the studio, and practice directing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was fortunate enough that I did well that for our final project, which was a 30-minute talk show, my
Mm-hmm.
group said, okay, Gina, we want you to be our director. I was like, seriously? And they were like, yes. Um, but I had to learn because at first I was like, okay, I want this to be a fair process. What are you guys thinking? What are you guys thinking?
Mm-hmm.
And eventually they came to me and they were like, no, Gina, you're our director. What do you want us to do? Where do you want us to go? What do we need to get? And then I kind of had this moment where I was like, oh, okay, well, this is what we need to do, and this is what we need to go get, and this is the story that we decided we wanted to tell, etc. And so I know throughout the process, everyone was saying it's really great to be able to lean on Dave to have this knowledge of Star Wars,
Mm-hmm.
and we each bring etc. To the table from based on our different backgrounds.
Yep.
At the end of the day, you're the director. And so I thought about that a lot when they were talking about learning on the go because they just needed to tell the story that they wanted to tell, but also fit within the context of the entire story. So the whole time I was just thinking, you guys are talking and trying to be humble, but I'm betting you this is infinitely more intricate and harder than we're even getting a glimpse
Oh,
of
for
how it
sure.
is.
Well, and I'm the type of person where
Yeah.
I'm watching that and I'm like, okay, but I want to know like what did they have to work through? Like, I want to
Mm-hmm.
know the story of the day that the wrong extra showed up, or like you didn't have the location as long as you thought you did, or like that kind of stuff that happens. But that's probably less interesting to like a mass audience or less easy to explain. But like that's what I love those stories.
Well, I even thought about the second when, Rick was talking to Pedro and he was like, my line. And for a second, he was like, do you mean the line that you have to say? Because there's just two of them. You don't know him. He was like, no, my walking line, which was funny in itself. But then I was like, okay, but what happens when you don't know your lines or like
Right.
learning what? So I'm also interested. I want every moment of that.
That kind of thing is great. And that's the kind of
Yeah.
thing I would love it if, like, I don't want to be greedy because we're getting this whole series too, but like, I would love episode commentaries too, because that's when they can really sit down and go like, "Oh, I remember this is the day that the light went out and we couldn't see anything." None of the directors sound like that, but when the lights go out, everyone talks like this, so this is how you know.
That's exactly. I hope they give us commentary, and I hope it's good. You know what? If it ever gets released on DVD,
Yeah.
that's the extra surprise, and everyone sounds like that.
Fun fact, completely unrelated to The Mandalorian, but if you have, I don't know if it's on the Disney Plus release, but I have the first season of Resistance on DVD, and there's like
Mm-hmm.
4 episodes that have commentaries with the actors. It's Kaz, Tora, Yeager, and oh, is it? It might be Niku, and they're voice actors, obviously, but they're like hilarious. Like, they just watch this show. So that's my little shout out. Like, if you can find those, you need to listen to them because they're amazing. But I would love to have that
Yeah.
with the crew or the cast of Mando. I think that would be just a hoot, especially because it would
Mm-hmm.
just be a lot of like, "There's Baby Yoda."
Yes. Let Werner Herzog do all the commentary for the show.
Do you know how much money I would spend on a Werner
So
Herzog
much.
commentary for The Mandalorian? Do you know how much money I would spend for a commentary of him doing the movies?
Oh my gosh, I want it. I want it.
I would spend like right now. I would so much money, just so much money to hear him just be like,
Hmm.
"We don't know what is going on here, but
Well, I
this is
even
the
think
beginning."
about the stories of him like directing Baby Yoda and things like that. And that took me back to one of the things that Deborah was talking about when she
Yeah.
was like, I want to find the life,
Yep.
even if it means, a line gets changed or the blocking changes, I want to focus on the life.
Yep.
And I mean, once again, you get the whole collaborative, especially if you think of. So I didn't know who he was like
Yeah.
before watching The Mandalorian, but then everyone on Twitter was freaking
Freaking
out,
out.
and I was like,
Yeah.
maybe I should go
I wasn't super
look him
familiar with
up.
him either. Yeah.
And then, like, I never saw any of the Rocky movies. I don't like
Hmm.
watching people get punched, so
That's
that's why.
fair. Yeah.
But that's like, so even not only do we have different directors who come from different backgrounds can do different things, but also our actors are coming from different backgrounds and have been directors, or
Yeah.
have done these different projects. So they can even be like, so can we do this? And then the director is adaptable to be able to say, yes, we're looking for the life.
Yep.
We can do this, as not just being adaptable with other directors or with Dave or
Yep.
John, but also with the entire set. And I'm just like, can every set be like this?
Right.
And if Obi-Wan and Cassian are going to be even like half of the cohesiveness I think that exists on the Mandalorian, we're getting really great television.
Yeah. I'm really excited for what we can get after this because, like, oh man, because like I said with the adaptability, it's I've heard not related to the Mandalorian, but I've just heard like television actors talk before when they're on TV shows, and it can be stressful because directors come and go, and the
Mm-hmm.
actor has spent more time with the character than the director, who's just there for that week, might have. And the tension between the people who actually know the character better and the people who are actually calling the shots. And it just doesn't feel like it's that mentality there at all. But it also feels like this collaborative thing we were talking about, where even if the other directors are not on set every day, they're aware of these decisions that are getting made for the character, which is it's
Mm-hmm.
got to be nicer for the people on screen also to feel like, okay, there is this consistency to my character, and I don't have to worry about it completely changing just because somebody, especially since they have such different styles, all of the directors.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I watched the show and I felt like when I go back and rewatch it, I can tell who's
Mm-hmm.
directing it, before I even see a name or credit flash up there. And yet it all still feels so cohesive. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something a lot of people have wanted with the Star Wars films.
Mm-hmm.
I know that as it was ending, a lot of people compared it to the MCU,
Yep.
and the ability to have different MCU directors and different feelings, but when you still get together for the Avengers movies,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
personalities only clash if the script calls for it to,
Yeah.
clash and things like that. And so I just think so that's one of my selling points for the Mandalorian. It's like
Yeah.
you want this in the films, and I like that. So I hope, the more films we get, it ends up being like that.
Right.
But come check out and see how well it's happening in this television show,
Yeah.
especially because it's the first one.
Yes. Oh man, for sure. Well, and I feel like what happened with the sequel trilogy, and I don't always get into this much because the I don't feel like the die is cast. Like what happened. You know what I mean in terms of how
Mm-hmm.
how the sequel trilogy got planned. But I feel like with the sequel trilogy, I maybe this is foolish of me with a big corporation like Disney, but I think it started with good intentions. I think with Marvel, with the MCU, you also regularly get the complaint that the movies are cookie cutter or every movie has the same plot, which I don't necessarily buy. I think every movie under the sun has the same plot when you get down to it, but whatever. I think they kind of wanted to do the opposite, and they were like, we're going to bring in these three really talented directors and let them each tell their own story, and we'll just try to guide the narrative. And then it didn't go so hot, and one of them left, and they brought back the guy who did it first, who like, and so like I think a lot of the course correction was this idea of we want to give people the freedom to tell their story, but it didn't have the oversight and the collaboration as that project was going, or at least if that was the goal, I think it's safe to say that's not what happened. Where then with Mandalorian, you have directors. I mean, Dave did what, 1 and 5, and Deborah did 3 and 7.
3 and 7.
3 and 7.
Yeah.
And Rick did 2 and 6, I think, if I'm remembering.
Yeah.
Anyway, so like you have directors starting and coming back, but there was this sharing process, and maybe it's easier to do that with television than film, especially with the secrecy level that the sequel trilogy films had. But I think they've found that sweet spot here with the Mandalorian, that they again, I like the sequels, so I don't want to be like, they should have done it this way, because I like what we got. But like, there's still room to improve on the formula they try, and that improvement I think was seen in The Mandalorian.
Well, I mean, I completely agree. The sequel trilogy, it's my favorite set of 3 movies out of everything. And at the same, so I'm not dunking on it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't know what the production schedule was like for The Mandalorian, like when they when they started to create it, write it, etc. But I don't think that it would be as great and cohesive without everything that the sequel trilogy went through. I think, not, I mean, granted, you have, movie department over here, television department over here, but you have, overheads who are saying, we low-key saw this maybe going a little bit south over here. Don't do that over here.
Yep.
And I think it helps. So we're always continually learning, and we're always continuing building.
Yep.
And because if you think about it, if you look at I like Iron Man. I like Thor. Like, I like the first MCU movies. I've never seen Hulk, so I can't talk about it.
You're fine.
But if you look at how those movies, like how they look and where they are, and before Disney got involved with Marvel, are they the absolute best? No.
I like Iron Man. I like the Iron Man films, but like this Iron Man 1 deserves so much credit because it's the movie that started it all, and like you would hope that your first one is not your best one, because that means you never improve, right? So I'm not saying this to dunk on Iron Man, but whenever I see people's like top 5 MCU movies list and Iron Man 1 is in the top 5, I'm like, when was the last time you watched Iron Man? It's good. If it's in your top 5, I don't know that you've watched it in the last 8 years.
Yeah, which is wild.
And maybe you do. Maybe you watch it every day and you have the script tattooed on your back and you love it, and that's fine. But that's just usually my first gut instinct is like, you probably haven't watched Phase 1 since Phase 2 ended, is my guess. And they're great for what they were at the time, and they were leagues ahead of where they were, but like, it's improved so much. And then you see like where Disney got involved, and then you see where Feige finally got control from what's his nuts, who was terrible and is the reason why Natalie Portman left the MCU. And like, even at that point, it's like way better. Which is why I'm really excited for where we're gonna go next, even. But this is not an MCU stream. But like, it's good. Even though we both probably could talk about the MCU quite a bit as well. We missed April Fool's Day. Dang it, that would have been good.
Oh my goodness. But it's almost as if people are afraid to say that improvement is okay, and without feeling like they're knocking whatever came before. What's necessary? We have to start somewhere. It's okay to still like it. But before we completely abandon the MCU train, it was so interesting that in the doc they were like, okay, so Taika made, Thor Ragnarok, which is in my top 3 and considered one of my favorite movies.
It's great.
And I would love to just hear Taika and John talk, since John did Iron Man, like he directed it. I would just love to hear him be like, okay, this is what it was like starting out.
Yeah.
And Taika to be like, towards the end, this is everything I went through in directing. And then see what they both took from both of those different points of experiences in MCU and took to Star Wars. I would love to be there for that conversation.
I would too. Because, like, I mean, Favreau deserves a lot of credit with what he did with Iron Man, because people
Mhm.
might not remember now, but like no one knew what Iron Man was really when that movie came out, unless you were already a Marvel Comics fan. Because like Marvel,
Mhm.
the company, if I understand it correctly, they were going under, and so that's how they sold the Spider-Man rights. That's how they sold the X-Men rights. And so like they didn't have
Yeah.
any of their A-listers left really. Some of their A-listers, but not a lot. And so then they're like, well, we have Iron Man. We have Robert Downey Jr. that everyone forgot about because he was in prison. And then, like, now we're like, well, it turns out Robert Downey Jr. is one of the best redemption stories out there, and also Iron Man was really good.
Mhm.
And, like, there we
Yeah.
go. Like, who knew? So, like, again, I'm not trying to diss on Iron Man 1, but it's what you said. Like, you would
Right.
hope Iron Man 1 does not stay in the top 5 of the MCU, because that means they never got better. I would be
Right.
worried.
Mhm.
Unless you're just a Jeff Bridges fan,
So
and
we
then,
have
then
all
I get it. But it's like,
true. So we have all these like comparing Star Wars to the MCU conversations, and I'm just like, or
mm-hmm.
hear me out.
Yep.
The MCU helped make Star Wars the best it could be.
Yeah, yep. And yeah, so and I think that's great. And and I feel like the comparison between Star Wars and MCU is both inevitable in a lot of ways, but also like I don't think it's really apples and oranges, but also necessary. Like in a way, because they're the
Mhm.
only two big Titan franchises. I mean, there's other things that have kind of come and gone, but I feel like they're the two pinnacles. And MCU is kind of, I mean, if I'm being honest, it's winning the movie race right now, which
Yes.
it's fine. Um, it,
Mhm.
it is what it is. Star Wars has been around 40 years, and will always have 40 years on or 30 years on the MCU. So like they have their things, but it's also kind of different because I feel like with the MCU, you can have a certain movie that might speak to you more. Like I love Captain Marvel a lot, and other people might connect more with this movie or that movie. But like overall, you would hope you would see an overall improvement. But then something like Star Wars, each trilogy has a completely different set of characters, so it kind of makes sense that one trilogy is going to be more your trilogy. Like just this last weekend, I was watching
Yeah.
movies, and I love the sequels. I love the originals, but like I'm remembering how much the prequel trilogy is my trilogy because that's where my fandom bloomed. Um,
Yeah.
and that's just how it's kind of a unique beast. And for a lot of people, I think that Mandalorian. I mean, like, there's a lot of people where their Star Wars is Clone Wars and their Star Wars is Rebels, because maybe they saw the movies, but like that's what got them into it. And I think thanks to my son, I think that a lot of people probably checked out the Mandalorian, and
Mhm.
that'll be their thing. And I don't know. I just think it's cool. I think.
Well,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say one thing that I think so. I was not originally going to be into the Mandalorian because I
Mm-hmm.
didn't care about Mandalorians.
Same.
And then they announced that it was Pedro, and I was a really big fan of him from Game of Thrones. So
There
I
you
was
go.
like, yes, I will
Yep.
watch that. And also, I give most new Star Wars things a chance.
Yeah.
I like to watch things before I'm like, no, that's not my thing.
Yep.
But before I really knew anything about it, I was talking with someone on Twitter,
Mm-hmm.
and they were like, "Do you want a spoiler?" And I was like, "Sure." And they were like, "He is going to take care of a child," and I was like, really? That's not how I think about Mandalorians.
Yeah.
That's okay. Now you've extra got my attention.
Mm-hmm.
And then I completely forgot about that when
Mm-hmm.
I went to Celebration and when I started watching the show. So when eventually we see Baby Yoda, I was like, oh yeah, that's what was 100% correct. I completely forgot about it. So I was able to watch it like spoiler free because I
That's
did
nice.
not remember something from that at all. But once again, we have that, subverted expectation of, I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of us saw or see Mandalorians in a specific way,
Yep.
even after having Clone Wars and Rebels and not just the films, we see them
Yep.
in a specific way, and then have a caretaker. I
Yeah.
don't think a lot of us saw coming at all.
Not me. Yeah.
Um, which makes it that much more interesting. But it also reminds me of one of the quotes that Rick said,
Mm-hmm.
where he said, he likes telling the stories of the misfits, and that's so interesting. And I think the perception that we have of Mandalorian, which is great if you're
Yeah.
just going to think like, warriors, all this hardcore stuff that is perfectly fine for anyone who sees them that way or
Mm-hmm.
likes those stories. Um, but this misfit of someone who was taken in and then is also this dad.
Yep.
And I'm just like, that completely draws me in to a story that I fully was not expecting to be as
Yep.
like at this moment, because my opinion changes all the time. So you could ask me this like next week, and I don't know if I'd have the same answer. But at this moment, The Mandalorian is my favorite Wars story
Mm-hmm.
that we have gotten. And I wouldn't have been able to say this like 6 years ago when I got into Star Wars.
Right. I mean, I was excited for Mandalorian because I'd been excited to someday get a live action Star Wars TV show. But I was kind of the same. Mandalorians are not
Mm-hmm.
my favorite thing necessarily. I don't dislike them, but they're not like what I get excited about. Crime, underworld stuff in Star Wars isn't necessarily there. But I was like really ready to support the show because I also knew Cassian was coming. I was way more excited for Cassian. We were hoping for a Kenobi show. And so I was like, no, I just want to support the show so that I eventually get the show that I want. And then I met my son, and
Mm-hmm.
it was all it was. And like one of my biggest pet peeves is I will to this day still see people talking about how like Disney really dropped the ball by not having Baby Yoda merchandise ready to go. And I'm like, there are so many interviews of like Dave and Favreau like saying Disney let us keep it a secret. Like Disney took the hits
Mm-hmm.
to maintain that surprise, which unfortunately was only a surprise for the people who had Disney Plus at launch, which wasn't everybody. But I was like, there's because I was like really adamant I was gonna do no Mandalorian spoilers whatsoever until at least the UK got it. And then once Baby Yoda came out, I'm like, they're not gonna be able to keep this a secret. And then he became the biggest meme. But I just thought it was cool how somehow in all of this process, no one knew. Like even there were, because I remember talking to people, I didn't know about the child leak that happened before Celebration. But I talked to people who said,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, no, I knew there was going to be a kid, but being a Baby Yoda, no one knew. Like
Yeah.
somehow that was just like
Mm-hmm.
the most sacred of all leaks. Or maybe because John
Yeah.
Boyega didn't work on the project.
Well, if I can once again tie in the MCU, I
Go
guess
for
this
it.
is secretly underlying an MCU stream, but I think about Civil War
Yeah.
and how there wasn't any promotion for Spider-Man at all.
Yeah.
Basically, because they didn't know that they were gonna. In fact, they'd written versions of the story to have T'Challa fill in
Mm-hmm.
some of that because they didn't know they were gonna have permission to use Spider-Man. But then luckily we got Tom Holland as Spider-Man. And
Thank
so I
God.
think it's one of those things where, yes. So I think it's one of those things where it's like, okay, so we didn't have, Baby Yoda merchandise at
Mm-hmm.
first. We've got plenty now.
Yep.
I just bought so much Baby Yoda merchandise yesterday. And so it's one of those things where I'm like, okay, but let's think about this important part of the story and be glad that we got this thing. And then it was kept a secret. I
Yep.
think we live in a very I mean, my dad is someone who loves spoilers. So,
Yep.
and on the right project, I'll take a spoiler. There are some things where I'm like, no spoilers, please.
Yep.
Um, and so I think we should be okay with having a really dope secret.
No, I think it was great. And it really made it hard for them to market the show. Because I remember seeing
Mm-hmm.
that anytime we'd get a trailer for The Mandalorian, I'm like, I'm not sure I'm gonna like this because the trailers are like he's flying around and he's in armor. Like, what is this? And then when we got the Baby Yoda reveal, I was like, oh, this is why there's like no like this. The marketing for the show is the same thing over and over and over again. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Which makes me so interested about marketing, like how season 2 is going to go.
Yeah. Oh,
Because I
it's
know for
Baby
a lot,
Yoda all over the place.
I know for a lot of us, we thought, I don't know, that everything that happened in maybe episode like at the season 1 would end with finding Baby Yoda or something. And so
Yeah.
each time an episode ended with like, okay, this is where we are. I thought, wow, this could have been the season finale.
Yep.
What else do you have to sort of in the same vein that Clone Wars had, where I was like, this is where we're ending. What else do you have to tell me? Is it going to hurt me? And so knowing that that's probably how season 2 is going to go,
Yep.
but we know about Baby Yoda, I'm just like, It's the planet of Yodas. It's the planet of
It's
Yodas.
I'm telling you, I want the Yoda planet. I want the Yoda planet. I can't remember if this discussion was on or off stream yet the other day, but I was like, I want the Yoda planet, and I want it to turn out that like Yodas are not short on their planet; they're actually like giants on their planet, and then they get off the planet and they're like, "What the criff is this? Why is everybody else so big? We're supposed to be big," and that like. And like I need that. I need them to go to a planet and there's just this giant civilization of Yodas talking backwards, and I want it to be exceptionally annoying. And I need some Yodas with really ridiculous haircuts, like just really like full beehives or something. Like there's just it's what I need in my life.
I want you to have that. I will say the one thing I wanted out of this episode
Yep.
that there's still like something more, so I could get it.
Yeah.
Is one of the most fascinating things. Okay, obviously I'm gonna have a bias towards the Mandalorian and Pedro Pascal because he's the love of my life. If you're watching this stream, I propose to you, Pedro. I want to know about being directed through the helmet. And I felt like this would be a really good episode for it since it was about directing, like everyone giving their take on what it was like to direct them. But I mean, whatever the rest of it's about, I can still get it. But just the idea of so much, because I wasn't expecting it to be an as emotional show as it was.
Right.
Because I wasn't expecting this nurturing, caretaking role, but like giving up Baby Yoda, deciding to go back for Baby Yoda, protecting, making friends, learning who you are around them. That's heavy emotional beats. And for me, it all worked really well through the helmet, not able to see someone's face until like I guess that's a spoil. I guess this whole thing has been spoilers. So
yeah, I would assume if you're watching this, you have watched The Mandalorian. And or don't care.
And true, and or don't care. And so I just really want to know what the difference between directing someone who we've never seen their face. I mean, granted, I won't say we all know, but a lot of us know what Pedro looks like, but they could have had him looking like any type of different way with, effects or makeup or anything. So I don't think we fully knew what was going to be underneath that mask, but what's the difference between directing someone with a mask, without, and how were they so successful getting all of his emotions to still shine through? And so I'm looking forward to that.
Hopefully that'll be either in like whatever presumable acting or like cast episode there would be or something like that. And then of course my own bias was I wanted more on the process of like working with Baby Yoda, especially if Herzog really talked them into keeping the puppet and they were gonna like replace it. Like I want to know how that went. I want footage of Herzog and the baby. I want like a whole like they should just make a whole episode called Herzog and the baby and the child.
I bet you there's a whole episode dedicated to Baby Yoda, which is going to be so interesting to me because they're going to be like the child, and I want to know like I want to know if they slip something up. They're probably not going to release that footage if they do, but I want them to accidentally. And this is this, and I feel like, ooh, I feel like I learned something extra.
So hello, Skynobi, welcome. But yeah, no, I'm excited to see more because I mean, obviously they had shots of the child in, and I'm really curious going into season 2 of The Mandalorian. Now that they know what a hit the child is, how that affects things. And like, there's little things too where I'm like, part of the reason why I don't like the other episode that Rick did is because my son gets dropped in that episode and I can't watch it. Like that, and like the final is the one where he gets punched several times and it literally like I can't. Like I get it's funny, maybe, but I can't. I really wonder if
not funny.
I can't remember the other actor's name, but I wonder if he and Jason Sudeikis like get death threats now because.
Oh yeah.
Because like, are you kidding me? But like so like I wonder are there going to be as many scenes where like things like that happen now that they know that they might get like stormed? Like I think there might actually be riots if anything bad
Yeah.
happened to Baby.
Well, and something I never thought about, because in general,
Yeah,
whenever I take in entertainment, but especially Star Wars, I do my best to start everything optimistic. I'm like,
yep,
whatever this is going to be great.
yep.
And so when I first saw Baby Yoda, I was like, this is going to be great. Even as someone, we've discussed this before, but I
Mhm.
wasn't the biggest Yoda fan when I first became introduced to this
I
fandom. That
convert
is
everyone
changing.
over time. Don't worry. Over time, I make everyone a Yoda fan.
And so for me, I was like, as soon as I saw Baby Yoda, I was like, and we're rolling with this, and I love this. Um, and so because because of my optimistic attitude, even
Yeah,
with things I don't necessarily not dislike, but just I'm just like towards.
yeah,
Um, I bet you there were so many talks about, are people going to accept,
right.
especially because we've had Yoda, we've had Yaddle, and now
Yep,
we have Baby Yoda. Are people going to accept someone else or a member of Yoda's species?
yep,
How well is this going to go over? And so knowing that it's accepted now probably does maybe change season two. Now it's another way to pull on our heartstrings. Is
yep.
Baby Yoda in danger? Are we ready to fight like punch our TV screens
Because I
for Baby
will.
Yoda?
I will.
Yes.
I liked how in a fandom that's been so divided for so long, like as soon as it happened, it was just every single person was tweeting, "I would die for Baby Yoda," and I was like, one thing we can all agree on, finally.
Yes. Um, but I can't even imagine the conversations that was going
Yeah,
through that, or maybe even like, can we even have
yeah.
a Baby Yoda?
Well, and I think that that was a big reason why they wanted to keep it a secret, like not just the plot twist, but can you imagine the discussion and discourse that would have come from there's going to be like a baby Yoda? And I feel like I would have been apprehensive because I'm such a Yoda fan.
Mm-hmm.
Like I as much as I also try to like give everything a fair shake, I think I would have been like I'm just nervous cuz they could screw this
Mm-hmm.
up. But like instead being surprised, I've told the story about how I wept when I saw the ending. I've told you
Yeah.
that story? Yeah, I'm not exaggerating. I wept in fetal position on my bed
I love,
for 10
I love
minutes
that.
when I saw him. And like I even missed the part where like he reaches out to grab his hand because I didn't see it the first time because I was heaving sobs in my bed.
Mm-hmm.
It's not exaggerating. And so anyway, I would never have had that moment
Yeah.
if it wasn't a surprise. I agree too, Med too. I think all Yodas will be force sensitive. That was the thing with the show too. When we saw the baby and everyone was like, "Is it force sensitive or not?" I'm like, "It's force sensitive. There's no way it's not.
Mm-hmm.
There's just no way.
Yeah.
There's no way that he's not going to
Well,
use
and
the force."
that's another thing about the things is like, what is something that makes something Star Wars?
Yep.
What separates Star Wars from? Because people are like, oh, it's a space opera,
Mhm.
fantasy, not really sci-fi and things, but some
Yep.
people like lump it in that category. And so I think back to something like Rogue One, when people were like, okay, but are we going to see lightsabers? Are we going to see Jedi fight? And really, our connection to the Force was
Mhm.
Chirrut and Baze and all
Yep.
of that. And so that was another thing I was thinking about, because the Force is what makes something
Mhm.
Star Wars,
Yep.
and getting different characters' perspectives of, do they believe in it? Do they
Mhm.
eventually believe in it? Do they go the whole time just kind of being like, that's not really my thing? And so that's
Yep.
something else that really intrigued me about The Mandalorian, because I was like, I don't really see where the Force is working,
Mhm.
besides like the greater,
You're right.
overarching cosmic force of,
Mhm.
everyone. But like, and then we have Baby Yoda,
Yep.
who has it. And I'm just like, and that works really well. And once
Yep.
again, I don't have a good definition of what Star Wars, but that right there,
It is.
that's Star Wars.
And also welcome Neil. Thank you for joining us once again. I think my favorite thing though is when Baby Yoda uses the Force, then he has to take a nap. Like that is just my
Yeah.
favorite thing, and it's the perfect way to make him powerful without making him overly powerful. Because then it's like, oh, okay, you can do a
Mm-hmm.
thing, but then you have to take a nap. It's just so cute. And then he also has to understand what's going on, because my favorite line from this series is the "do the magic hand" thing, and he's just like, ah.
Yes. And that's something else that works really, really well about the show, because it's
Yep.
like, we as an audience, I feel like even if The Mandalorian's the first Star Wars thing you watch, it's
Yeah.
so ingrained in our pop culture that I feel most people know,
Yep.
what the Force is, basic understanding of how it works.
Yep.
And so we as an audience are like, that's exactly what's happening. And all of our characters are like, what is happening?
And I loved that too. And he was just like seeing the Mudhorn getting levitated. He's like, "What am I on? Like,
Yeah.
like what is going on?" And I thought that was great. And it's like, in a way, it also kind of explains why, even though I have to admit, I haven't fully forgiven him for giving up my son to the Empire. And it was funny because everyone was like, that episode's my favorite. I'm like, no. Like, if you watch my review of that episode, I started out, I'm like, look, we're not on speaking terms. And it was like, his armor's so cool. I'm like, it is his armor of sin and shame. It marks a terrible thing he's done, and I think about it every time he's in it. And I was just like very upset. And they're like, he got him back. I'm like, getting him back is a good first step. But like,
oh my god,
in a way, it almost makes a little bit more sense because he's like, I don't know what this thing is. They can have it because I don't know what it's doing. And then he rightfully felt bad about it and went and got it back.
versus Gina on Unmistakably Star Wars, who, though she cares about Baby Yoda, was like, look at that moment of growth for my Mandalorian, who wouldn't have normally gone back, but did. He's such a great. I think I'm going to go back and I'm going to go through every review you did and every review I did.
What's great, if you go through, I have, like, every review is me speculating on something and, like, it's all wrong. Like, everything is wrong. And it's another thing that cracks me up because I had so many theories during The Mandalorian. I guess maybe they're not wrong. They could still technically happen in season 2, but, like, they never panned out in this season. And then if you go and look at our, like, predictions for the Rise of Skywalker stream, I have, like, a thread somewhere on Twitter, and it was, like, all the points where I almost called everything in the movie, and I'm like, I don't know.
I remember when, because Carl Hassler and I are the ones who did the review for The Mandalorian, and every time we ended it with, so what do you think what happened in this episode means for Star Wars largely? Do you think it means anything for the Rise of Skywalker? And what do you think it means for, like, the rest of the season and future seasons? And when we get to what do we think, like it means for, like, the rest of the season, future seasons, and guessing, and the whole time we would just be like, I don't know, because I didn't expect this episode to go away. Like, literally every episode, we're just like, you know what? I don't know.
I don't know.
Oh my gosh. It's a good show. Everyone should watch it.
It is. It is. It's a lot of fun. And we'll see what season 2 brings. I mean, obviously there's some things that will have to come back, like the mercs that turned their back on him and dropped my son. Like they're obviously coming back. It's not confirmed, but like how could they not?
Yeah.
I'm on team Finnick isn't dead, personally. I know there's very mixed thing, and some people feel very strongly about it, and I'm not invalidating how anyone feels about that, but I'm on team she's not dead.
Yes.
And we also don't know, I don't think anyway, we don't know who went and found her. Like, I think there's plans there. Plus, Ming-Na Wen is just like way too freaking excited on Twitter every day for her to just not be coming back.
Plus, I don't think you, like, as much as I think so many famous people, so many celebrities, just by the amount of people who like cameo as stormtroopers and whatnot, are so excited that they just want to like be a part of Star Wars. So I get that happens. And I very much see that in Ming-Na Wen, but I don't think you hire someone of her caliber and ability just to kill her off. I just can't believe that.
I don't believe that. And even if they did, even if they made the mistake of hiring her and killing her off, the ending is such where they can rectify that mistake very, very easily. All it takes is one person to go, "You're dumb, bring her back." Maul was cut in half, Palpatine was thrown down a hole, she can be fine. It's fine.
Somehow Finnick has returned.
But it's like the reverse of the meme. It's like you start without a soul, and then you're like, I might make.
I mean, Go ahead.
I was just saying I might make like a reverse meme of like that Poe meme. That Poe meme is like my favorite meme of all time. Again, I confuse the heck out
Oh
of
my god.
people because everyone knows I love the movie, but I love making fun of it too. So like that Poe meme is like my life. That and like the Ray knock knock joke. I love like as much as I personally love that moment in the movie, you can send me those jokes all day long and I will laugh at all of them. I think they're great.
I think I also confuse people at times because they're like, Gina, don't you strongly dislike this movie? And I'm like, yes, but it's pretty and it gives me my good boy sweater moment. Let me live.
Hey Caleb, welcome. And also to Sarge, hello.
I mean, like there was someone who's like, "What's your favorite moment in the entire saga?" And I was like, "Well, guess what? My favorite moment is in the Rise of Skywalker, the same movie I'm so critical about. So just be confused about that, okay?"
You know, that's how Star Wars is sometimes though. I feel like some of my favorite characters are in I hate to say like least favorite because it makes it sound like I hate it because that's a whole thing in discourse that I don't like. It's why I avoid ranking the films because inevitably someone's gonna go the one that's last. You hate that one. I'm like, no, I didn't say I hated it. That was never a thing I said. You just inferred that. Which is why I just tell everybody that my favorite is the holiday special, and then there's the rest of the films, and that's always my film ranking.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, what's the best Star Wars movie? Holiday special. We all know it.
It's a holiday special. Whenever I said The Force Awakens, I was wrong. I'm sorry.
It's the holiday special. I mean, I use that as an outro in my videos when I do actually do videos sometimes. So. It can be
fun. No, but yeah, I'm really happy that the series didn't go. Well, I would have been okay if it had been like the behind the scenes of each episode because I'm happy that we're getting this anyway. I'm thankful. I'm grateful. But I do really like the approach of saying, okay, this one's going to be about directing. And then I don't know what the rest are going to be about, but I'll be there.
Presumably there'll be like a writing one, an acting one, visual effects, and probably Baby Yoda, but like maybe sound, maybe music, or sound and music together, depending. But yeah, unless that list exists, I don't know.
I haven't found it yet. I'm gonna find it, or someone's gonna send it to me. Who knows?
Neil asks, will season 2 be moved up if Celebration is postponed? I don't think it has anything to do with Celebration. I think it has to do with the other Disney Plus shows. Because to take it back to the MCU, the original schedule they had was it Mando first or was it Falcon and Winter Soldier first?
Oh,
I can't remember, but I feel like there was a Marvel show and then a Mandalorian and then 2 other Marvel shows. And like they weren't ever going to release Mando at the same time as an MCU show.
Yeah.
But if development on the Marvel shows was set back due to this, then that might they might want to put it in a more like a different slot. But I don't know because it's coming out around the same time. It's just a month sooner, so like maybe they'll delay it till November again to put it in a better slot.
And it's so far away. Okay, so this is where everyone gets Gina's ignorance on current events.
That's fair.
It's far enough away that things in the real world could be better. The only reason I could see them changing work, because I think about, I don't know what show it was, but I saw that there was an announcement that they like moved up a show because everything right now in the world is so crazy with COVID that they were like, well, we're done. You're freaking out right now. We're going to give you a television show to low-key make everything better. And so if things aren't more stable and calm, I could see them being like, let's give this to you so you can breathe a little bit and have some fun together. And so that right now to me is the only thing I could think of that would change when stuff was.
Yeah. Well, and like we know that they've effectively wrapped on season 2, so they just wouldn't be able to do pickup shots. And I think Falcon and Winter Soldier had wrapped. If not, it was close.
It was very, very close. I saw some interview with Sebastian Stan where he said they had like 2-3 weeks left of stuff to do.
Yeah. So, like, anything that has its filming done, the post-production process is an editor in a room by themselves, and you can easily send files back and forth between you and the director. Like, I don't know what Hollywood's doing right now, but I would think anything that's wrapped and anything that's just in the post-production process could still get made. But
Yeah.
anything that so like I don't know if WandaVision or Loki had finished filming. Probably
Yeah,
not.
I don't think so.
So they're
No.
probably delayed. So like that to me, the only thing would either what you said, they'd either bump it up just to give us something, or they would put it in a different slot to make up for. And I kind of feel bad for Disney Plus. Maybe I shouldn't feel bad for a super corporation that owns us all, but like so much of the reason to get Disney Plus was either because you had nostalgia for all the old Disney stuff, or for these
Yeah.
MCU shows that are coming out, and now they're kind of messed up
Yeah.
because they can't get the shows done. But whatever. I mean, most of us bought it so we could watch, our favorite Disney musical on loop. Or like, what's funny is I own all the Star Wars movies on Blu-ray, and I still watch them all on Disney Plus now just because it's easier.
Oh my goodness, same. And you just flip over, I don't know, to your Roku, your Amazon
Yep.
Fire, and it's just like way easier.
The TV in my room is literally my computer monitor, so I just go on Chrome and bring up Disney Plus, and it's
Yeah.
otherwise I have to like my Blu-ray player hates me. I've never owned a Blu-ray player that didn't break after like 2 months. I don't know what I do to them. Computers
I am
last forever
someone,
with me, and Blu-ray players are like no.
yeah, I still get DVDs. So
There you go.
I buy versions like DVDs and Blu-rays, but I'm someone of the mind who doesn't think that like Blu-rays and streaming should exist yet, actually. I think that should be something that happened when I had kids, like later in life. I feel like how the technology has evolved too fast in my personal opinion. I'm thankful for streaming. I'm thankful for Blu-rays and 4K and all that. It looks nice. But like that should have happened when I was like a real adult with some kids.
That's amazing. Meanwhile, they'll
Because
all
like
have like their TVs just injected into their head or something by that point.
honestly, I think about because I remember a time before Apple.
Yeah.
I remember having to ask for an internet stick. I remember like my first phone was like a QWERTY keyboard. I thought
Yep.
the BlackBerry was about to be the next biggest, nicest thing. And so like to go from like VHSs all the way to DVD,
Yep.
and I'm just like, oh, y'all moving too fast. I don't know how to work with it.
Oh man. Yeah. I remember too, like my first quote unquote smartphone was like an LG, and it had like the slide up keyboard, and it was a piece of garbage, that phone, and I hated
Mm-hmm.
it so much. And then one day I got an iPhone, and I'm like never going back.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I remember having an MP3 player, and
Yep.
like my MP3 players always had the ability to record songs from the radio.
Yep.
And so I'd always be like, okay, like your favorite songs come on this time. You'd be like, no static, no static. Everyone be quiet. And you just record. This is like not about the Mandalorian anymore.
No,
This is about me like
we let this is the conversation we keep having after the stream. We've just decided to share it with everybody today. To go back to Marvel, I think one of the times I have like broke down in laughter the hardest during an MCU movie was actually like in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, which I will forever say is a good movie. I don't know what's wrong with people. And when he gets the Zune at the end of that movie, I lost it. I lost it so hard. And I'm like, this is a joke that a very narrow, specific group of people will get. Very specific.
yeah.
And it is not the group of people that the first movie catered to at all, where they're all like, these are the songs from my childhood. I'm like, this is a very narrow group of people who know what a Zune is. It's it's like,
oh my
there's
gosh.
like 200 songs on it. And I'm like, I can't. This is so good.
Oh my goodness. That's why I love it when people are like, Gina, do you know what a cassette player is? And I'm just like, yes. Used to listen to them all the time.
Oh my gosh.
How old do you think I am?
Do you know what the thing is? Oh my gosh, that's great. I love it.
No, but yeah. Everyone, if you haven't watched The Mandalorian, go watch The Mandalorian.
You
You
should.
go rewatch The Mandalorian.
You
Good
should.
show.
Oh man. But yeah, so but like about directing on The Mandalorian.
Directing. It's good. It's
It's
pretty
good.
darn good. I
There
think we
was
can.
there was directing and it was good.
And then so you made this point earlier. It's like Deborah's doing Obi-Wan stuff, so we lose her for this, but thankfully it's for other Star Wars things. But
Yep.
I saw a tweet online, and I don't remember his name. The guy who directed the Ant-Man movies,
Oh
I
yeah,
guess, is
yeah.
it him?
Yes, it's like Peyton Reed.
Yeah. Also, the Ant-Man movies are like underrated. None of us
They
talk
are
about them. But
no,
anyway,
like Ant-Man and the Wasp is like my number 3 MCU film. Not even kidding.
like they're good.
Yep.
More people should watch the Ant-Man movies.
I agree.
But also, I'm very thankful that we are getting even more, I'm assuming, cool directors, because I liked the Ant-Man movies. I don't know what else he's done, but it's going to be good.
The love that Ant-Man got in Endgame is one of the things I do actually really appreciate about Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the moment the rat saved the universe, I felt validated for all the people I knew who were like, I'm not going to watch the Ant-Man movies. I'm like, well, I hope you enjoyed being confused in Endgame then.
Yeah.
It's kind of how I feel about it.
I mean, same. Yes, very much same. Didn't expect him to have such a big part in that movie, and then I was
so happy.
very
I was like, yes! Bring in Ant-Man. Make him matter.
So I think we're just gonna continue to get really good directors, really diverse directors, and not in that weird token way of just saying, "Oh, diversity."
Right.
Getting good, different perspectives and creating a really, really good show. And then those directors end up getting movies. That movie's gonna be amazing, and I'm gonna love it. I guarantee you. So.
I really hope that they use Disney Plus as a way to find. This is what I was saying earlier. Because there's a lot of really talented people out there, but not everybody can play in the Star Wars universe just because it's a different collaborative process. You have to agree to certain rules to do it. And I think if you can trust somebody with, an $8 million episode, you can trust them with a $200 million movie. And you can just kind of see how that works and give them a chance. And so I think this is going to really help. And I think Star Wars is just at a point narratively where it's better on the structure of a TV show than, especially if they're going to go away from the Skywalker saga and episodes. That it's better. I think Disney Plus is a better landing spot for it anyway.
Almost definitely.
But yeah. I know you were getting close to a time you wanted to run to something else, and I don't want to keep you. In about 15 minutes, we don't have to wrap up if you don't want to, but in about 15 minutes, over on What the Force, they're doing a big old thing. Yeah. So there's a link there if you guys want to check that out in 15 minutes.
It's the FemGaze Fest, and it has Sky Talkers and all that. Dr. Ophelion from Looking for Leia.
Yep. Fun. So it's going to be a lot of really cool people that you are used to either hearing in your ears through podcasts or seeing on the Twitter. So that would, if you're looking for another thing to do after this stream, there's a lot of cool people over there to go listen to. But other than just shooting the breeze, I don't really have a whole lot else to say about this. I'm excited for. Do you know when the next one's out? Is it Friday? I should have looked that up before we started.
I assume it's Friday. I haven't found much, but I'm excited to talk about it after we watch it.
Exactly. Whenever we get it, I was assuming Friday also, just because that's.
But I think it's probably.
I mean, that's just when we got Mando and Clone Wars, so I don't know why it wouldn't. I don't know why it wouldn't take that slot.
Right.
And then we'll see what we get then. So that'll be really exciting. It'll be nice to have something to look forward to, but also something where I'm not afraid of spoilers.
Yeah.
Because I won't be able to watch it until I get home from work.
Yeah, that's true.
But thank you so much for being here. As far as schedule on the channel goes, I'm probably taking tomorrow off because I'm tired. But then Thursday will probably be KOTOR for those of you who are into KOTOR 2. So that's
Yes, please rest.
yes, but tomorrow is going to be Jess sleeps. And that's gonna be and or live tweets Rogue One and cries on the inside. One of those two things, or both. Caleb says, yeah, all new episodes on Disney Plus have been Fridays. Okay, yeah, so that's what I would assume. But yeah, so thank you, and thank you all for hanging out here. Yes, as Kel said, please like the stream on your way out if you have not already. And I will talk to you guys soon. Thanks so much. Bye.